Alright guys, so for our last photo, we are going to be editing something from Consolation Lakes. Alright. So for a photo like this, I'd say most of the time I would bring this image into Photoshop, but when I processed it the first time, I was actually able to get something I was really pleased with, so I didn't feel the need to actually bring it into Photoshop. So I haven't edited this photo in probably a month now, and I also haven't looked at my prior edits, so I'm just going to start fresh looking at the image as if it was the first time editing it, and I'm almost positive we'll get roughly the same edit as the first time, but just kind of pull what we went over in the first two photos and really hone in on those for this one. So right away, relatively dark here, but the reason why is because I wanted to properly expose for this and make sure none of these highlights got blown out, because they were very on the verge. So I'm going to drop those highlights quite a bit to bring that detail back in. I don't think we need to go all the way, but most of it. I'm going to bring those shadows up a lot, overall whites, but not too much because that starts to clip some of the highlights. And bring the blacks down a little bit. Again, as always, chromatic aberrations and profile corrections. And when you underexpose a photo to properly expose for your highlights, it's going to be darker, but when you do enable profile corrections, it'll actually help bring the brightness back to the photo. So before and after that, because it takes away that vignetting that my wide angle lens was doing. And for most landscape shots, I would say you will be shooting on a wide angle lens that will have some of that. All right, so white balance I'm noticing is a bit green down here, a little bit blue overall, kind of a cooler tone, so I'm going to bring that up a bit, just a little bit, and I don't like these greens going on. So overall I'm going to bring a good bit of magenta in, and be careful because magenta comes in pretty quick when you're editing. So like that might even be too much. I might have to just go in with the graduated filter later, but I'm gonna bring up my vibrance a touch, and you can see right here it's getting very close to overexposing. So just to be wary of that, I'm gonna drop those highlights all the way. This photo was not taken at sunrise or sunset. It was taken probably 1 hour after sunrise, so that's why we still have some really nice colors coming in through here. I'm going to drop the general exposure just a touch, and then bring up some stuff in the tone curve, some of those dark areas, and yeah, so check that before and after. Just going to bring some of those nicely, even drop the contrast a little bit. So in here everything is very high detail. My ISO was only at 50. I try to always keep my ISO extremely low because I hate noise in my photos. I hate grain. I think it looks really unprofessional, and I like to really try to expose as best as I can. But since I did have to bring up these shadows quite a bit, and I didn't do a stacked exposure for this is a single exposure, I am going to just kind of fix a little bit of noise that may have come in. So what that will do, the luminance of the noise reduction, is if there's any grain down in here, that'll just kind of help with that. And I don't see any with, I don't really see any, but it does help just touch, especially if I was to blow up this photo. So for now, we've got the before, after. We've done a lot, and all we've really touched is up here. Now I'm going to come into colors, and let's see these greens down here. I just want to see if they show up from the green side or not really. So I guess they're coming up as yellows, which we can check. Yeah, yellows, a little bit of oranges. So bring that slider, my yellow slider, down. Bring that maybe a little bit more rich, and it's all log, so it should be more orangish reddish anyways, opposed to yellow and green. So that definitely helps. The blues, the little bit sneaking through in these clouds, I'd like to make a little bit more turquoise to kind of add some dreaminess to it. That's good there. Bring that orange up a little bit more towards yellow just for these peaks. They were a bit too orange before. Saturation, I'm going to do last. I'm going to go over the luminance, and right here, if I can make these clouds more moody with this luminance, I would love that, but I don't want to affect those peaks. So just messing with these to see if any of them are helping me get where I want to end up with. And none of them are getting me too much, so I think drop the yellows just a touch, and then I'm gonna saturate the orange overall. I think that's it for HSL for now. And I am noticing as I edit this more, my horizon is off. So I'm going to check this ruler tool. I have a feeling I might be leaving it though, because I do like the angle of the mountains, and although the horizon might be off, Bree is exactly how the horizon should be. She's standing straight up. And I remember when I was shooting this, I was actually shooting at a slight angle because of kind of the way these mountains were and how I wanted to capture them. But let's just see what this does in case. Yeah, so actually, if I grab the ruler and do the horizon, which would be right here, it's not really doing much at all. So I'm actually just going to undo that and put that to 0, because I do like it how it is, even though it's kind of off horizon. So that is a really good base edit, and now I'm just going to go in on stuff we went over on the last one. So these clouds, I'm going to really make dramatic and pull as much out of them as I can. So I'm going to make them moody and dramatic, and I'm going to do that by dropping exposure a ton. But now it's kind of, it loses some of the detail in that, so I'm going to bring the clarity of that up pretty high. I'm just going to do all the way actually. And that really brings in some detail, as you can tell. And I'm going to actually mess with the white balance too. Kind of give this more of the effect that it was taken at sunrise or sunset. And all of this is personal preference, but this is just kind of showing you how I would do things. That might be a little too magenta. Yeah, there we go. So that really changed the sky. And you can see before and after, I've changed the idea behind the photo quite a bit, but I'm okay with that. I'm not necessarily a naturalist in the slightest, actually, so I'm okay with editing like that. But again, everything in this is personal preference after you know the tools on how to do things. But looking at it, I notice right here, overall, it's generally pretty bright and kind of distracting, and I want the eye to be kind of in this general area. So, oops, I'm going to bring up a graduated filter, just drop this exposure, just a few stops. And then I'm going to bring one just for down here, just the lower parts, really darken those. Yeah, I think that helps direct the viewer's eye to where it should be. So we got before, after, and I'm going to come back to this one and see if I can, these highlights are really nice, pull those up a little bit without, no, I don't like that. So I'm going to come over to the brush, put this feather to 100 so this really pushes out, and I'm just going to go over these highlighted areas, these little like ridges of clouds almost. And some of them aren't as apparent, but you can kind of pull out as you would like. I'm going to bring this, you have to be really delicate in your edits because it will change them quick. So if I did that, it's going to be like, oh yeah, you just painted those on. So that's why I'm saying you have to be really kind of delicate. And if you see the arrow key, the increments will actually not go up in 5. They'll actually go up in 1 because it knows that editing in this, you have to be kind of careful with what you do. Let's see, maybe. No. I think that helps the sky a bit, but I don't like how it's affecting this ridge. I'm going to darken that one up on its own. But yeah, I really like what it did up in here. And that's just kind of accentuating what's already there and really kind of giving this a cool feel. These peaks I noticed are a little saturated, are a little dark on the yellow, so that's why I just changed that. If I wanted to, I don't think I do because I kind of like just where this photo's at, but you could kind of brighten Brie a little bit. And the reason I wouldn't have done this normally is just because, you know, I took the photo as it is, and she's clearly small in it. She's not the subject of the photo. She's more so giving you scale, and she's kind of putting a slight reality onto this photo that almost doesn't look real because it's so dramatic and it's so moody. So bringing in a human element kind of just is like, whoa, wait, this is real. You know, they were actually there. This isn't created from a computer. They did this hike and like got some crazy conditions and like, I don't know, just kind of puts you in the spot. But if I wanted to get a little bit brighter with her, another thing you have to be careful with, so as you bring up the exposure, it'll kind of dull out the shadows. So like that helps, but it almost looks too much. She looks kind of out of place. Let's drop that a little bit. But it definitely helps kind of put her more there. So let's delete that. See how dark she was? Yeah, she almost couldn't even see her. But put that back in with Command Z. She really is shining through. So I think I'll leave that actually. But I did see a slight halo around her legs when I zoomed out. So I'm going to bring that in just a touch. Make sure it's really only getting her and then feathering out nicely. Yeah, I mean, I think that this photo is finished. I really like it. I am going to pull up my first edit of this photo to try and compare it and see if there was a big difference or not. So this is the photo I edited roughly a month ago, and this is what we just edited. I mean, there's very slight differences, but it's almost identical. Just kind of following the same things. I had a feeling it would be identical. One thing I noticed is there's definitely some more detail down here, and I do like that. So if I wanted to get that back in on here, this graduated filter that we already did, just kind of bring in some clarity. That's it. I think that was plenty. Lightroom, as we said, is very, very versatile platform. Alright guys, so I can't get all of these images kind of in here to show you best side by side because one of them is horizontal, but as you can see from Lightroom alone, I mean, you can really get a lot out of your photos from here by doing simple exposure adjustments and color tones. You can really get a nice rich photo. And from here, we really selectively edited this water, took out some people and cleaned up the photo. And I think this photo looks super dreamy, and I really am happy with how the colors of the water came out. And this photo here, Consolation Lakes that we did last, we did a lot of selective editing, and I think it almost changed the photo entirely from this early morning hike to this really dramatic, moody mountain, almost as if we took this photo right before a thunderstorm. So you can use these tools for all of your photos, and you can convey different feelings, different atmospheres. However you really want to edit a photo is up to you, but all these techniques that I use today, I use in almost every single photo, and I know it's applicable to every single photo.